Our feelings and our emotions are not facts, but they do drive all of our decisions. What if we got really good at recognizing this and rather than reacting, we responded in ways that improved every part of our lives and, of course, our health and our fitness? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about today with my very special guest. And here's the thing, I you're going to get to meet him in just a minute, but one of the things I was thinking about last night, when you lay your head down on the pillow and you kind of think about your day and how it went and things like that, I was thinking it has been truly such an honor, a privilege, a joy to meet so many people in this industry since I left nursing, which of course nursing, I'm lots of wonderful people there too, but I have especially enjoyed getting to know and meeting so many people, so many different people in this industry that have a love, a care, for people and helping them with their health and their fitness and their mindset. And I've made so many great friends and connections since being in the fitness industry. And I just want to acknowledge that it's truly something that I'm so grateful for, so thankful for. And yeah. Anyway, I'm super pumped about my guest here today. And it's kind of the same thing here. I love this guy. He's super cool, and you're gonna be in for a treat. I hope you bring your notebook and your pen because we get into some really deep stuff, and I think you're really gonna like this. So let's dive in. Well, hello, Alex McBrairty. I am so super pumped to have you here today. Quite a surprise that you're here because this was a very short um, notice. And I just feel like the universe had this planned out in advance for us. And I'm really excited for this time together. I want to just let our listeners know who you are. Alex, I'll let you say hi. So it doesn't sound like it's just me.
Yeah, I was going to say. Oh, no, I'm happy to be here. It's going to be a good time. I've been just waiting for the day to get the lucky invite, the golden ticket onto the podcast.
You're so funny. Well, welcome to the show, man. Y'all, rockstar ladies, this is Alex McBrairty. He is a super awesome, amazing friend of mine that I got the privilege of getting to know and meeting at Raise the Bar last time I attended at the end of last year. We sat next to each other. I don't even remember what the little homework piece was out there, audience participation, but we got to be partnered up, and I think we sang a rock song or something to each other.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I had to sing "Living on a Prayer" to you while sitting 2 feet away from you, not knowing that you're a real life rock star. So,
oh my gosh, your energy is amazing, and we really hit it off that day. It was so cool. So listeners, rockstar ladies, this is Alex, and Alex is he's a super cool friend of mine who is just an expert all around when it comes to behavior change, psychology, and he is a fitness coach. He intertwines all of this stuff to help people change not just their health and their fitness, but their lives. And so, as you can tell, because you know me and you know I'm all about this, the fitness, the nutrition, and the mindset. So what better way? Well, I mean, like, that's why we connect, Alex. And so, yeah. And plus, not to mention, on the musical artist side, you're a salsa dancer. Which I found really fascinating when I met you, and then you were fascinated that I sing in a band. We're like, wow, we got a lot in common here. We love music. We love to experience and express ourselves through music. And also, you are an online coach, obviously, from A-Team Fitness. And so together, we're just peers out here encouraging each other, supporting one another in what we do to help people in the fitness community and industry. But we like to go above and beyond and do what we feel like is the most impactful with helping people realize why they do what they do, so that they can actually make their health and their fitness a real life, just a fit lifestyle, not just a thing that we do from time to time. But anyway, so with no further ado, is there anything that I missed out, Alex? I'm sure I did, but anyways, I'm just so happy to have you, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today, which I will mention in a moment. But did I miss anything?
That was really good. And I know behind the scenes you had asked me for
Okay.
if I would give the intro and I just said
That's
use
right.
what you
You're like,
know.
"You
I'm
do
going
the
to put you on the
intro. You're
spot. I'm going to
so
make you
cool."
sweat just a little bit in the
Lots of
beginning.
credentials, lots of credentials. We talked about that.
We did talk
Remember?
about
I
credentials,
was
which
like, "I wanna
are
make sure, like, we gotta talk about, like,
seldom
you have."
important.
I know, but we're gonna talk about that because, you're NASM certified, so am I, and you have several NASM certifications, so do I, like nutrition coaching and behavior change and all these amazing, which NASM, it's the best, gold standard, I think,
Yeah.
for certifications.
I'm biased, but
And
I agree.
you have a background experience in education in psychology, right?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
What is
It
it?
was by complete accident too, only
By
because I
complete
didn't know what I
accident.
wanted to do. Well, so
Uh,
when I was going to my undergrad and I had to choose a major, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So the psychology classes, learning about people and the interactions of people, etc., was the only thing that interested me at the time. Those were the only interesting classes, the only ones I looked forward to. So I decided to major in psychology, still not knowing what I wanted to do in life, and stumbled into fitness post graduation. But the psych stuff was a good experience because not only did I get my degree in it, but I also helped manage a research lab my time there and shortly thereafter to post graduation, studying mindset and motivation specifically. So got a lot of
nice.
unique perspectives.
Yeah. And you're originally from New Jersey? Is that right?
No, I'm actually from Michigan, Ann Arbor,
Oh,
Michigan. Yeah,
okay.
I've only been in New Jersey for 2 years. I moved here 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. You moved to New Jersey. That's right. Okay.
Correct. Yeah,
Gotcha. All
yeah.
right.
Big change, cross country move.
Yeah. And so anyway, I just felt like we were, drawn to each other, especially in this, um, these ideas of how mindset is everything. It really, really is. I mean, we can try all we want to put the actions in place, but we do have to work on our mindset and our personal development. And so that's why I'm real excited to have you today because the reason that we've been kind of like ping ponging back and forth and encouraging each other in business and those kind of things, which I appreciate you for that. Thank you for doing that with me.
Yeah.
Um, but recently, obviously, we've had some serious things. There's always something serious that we in life are dealing with, and we've had some serious natural disaster stuff happening in Texas. So I'm not going to focus on that, but it has stirred up, right? It has stirred up people just feeling like, how can I go on, and how it impacts so many emotionally, where to the point where we can tend to get in this trap of the emotions taking over, and then we're not even taking care of ourselves, and we're making everything and everybody else the focus, which is an ongoing conversation anyway when it comes to health and fitness, especially women over 40, busy women who have a lot going on. It's real simple to just easy to take the path of least resistance and say, well, these are the reasons because I'm having these emotions and I am stressed out and I am overwhelmed and this is going on. And so, yeah, I thought let's discuss this. I think coming from you, I want to hear. I would love to get some insight from you. I love to bring on people who have different insights and expertise in this, and I know that you do. And so, where do we go? Where do we begin with this topic?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot. And it's such a, I think it's important to recognize too how common it is for, it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you, happening to the listeners when life is hard, which it will get hard and will sporadically be hard throughout. How do we keep going towards the things that are important to us when it feels like there's less hope or it feels like we have every good reason not to?
Hmm.
I think is the tricky part. Is it's not just excuses. It's we genuinely have good excuses for not
Yeah,
doing it. And it's whether or not we listen to those or if we're going to change the script from what's
yeah,
been given to us, you know?
yeah. And that all starts with. I mean, right now we're talking about it, so it's bringing awareness to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I think the emotions are tricky. Emotions are tricky because they are powerful and they can, because they're so powerful, drive behavior that we may or may not want for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's this recognition too that our brain basically has two sides. We have the rational and we have the emotional. And when the emotions are triggered, the rational side of our brain is muted. It's turned all the way down. And that's why we find that we're more impulsive. We make choices that short term might feel good or help us cope with the emotions, but long term, for what we actually want, again, that rational side, don't really serve us well. Maybe even pull us backwards in the direction we don't want to go. And it can just be hard to figure out how to navigate that. How do
Yeah.
we recognize what we're doing and how do we turn it around?
Yeah, and I love how you kind of bring this, kind of introduce this, because the way you say it can be hard. Like, I think it's important to validate that. It's important to validate because I think sometimes we can get caught up comparing, seeing somebody who seems to be navigating life like so successful in their health and fitness journey, like they have no cares in the world. But yet we all do have times that are hard. And regardless of where you are in your fitness journey, in your life, if it's hard for you, it's hard for you. Whatever it is, it's still valid. So it's not that something is wrong with you or we need to fix you. It's more just it is what it is, and becoming aware of those emotions, validating those emotions. I think that that's a very important thing to do for people, um, because I think as coaches, I'm just as guilty as the next coach. Sometimes we just say, well, just do it. Or like, what's the problem? But
Right.
we can lose sight of the fact that these emotions are very powerful and they come from that place that this, like this invisible, it's like an
Yeah.
invisible power we don't even know is happening. And so as coaches, we need to be aware of that. And I just want to say, as a coach, I'm getting better and better at validating those emotions because they're real and we need to.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of still probably my favorite quote and the one that has been most impactful on my career as a coach that I learned many years ago. And it's funny when I bring this quote up because I actually first read it in a book about catching serial killers. It's a book called The Anatomy of Motive. Not to say that all of my clients are serial killers, or hopefully any of them for that matter. But it was a quote about how to catch serial killers, and the quote is: "When you understand a person's reasons for doing something, all behavior makes sense."
Right.
And that was such a powerful realization for me because even when we're engaging, all behavior needs purpose. We're creatures that inherently don't do things for no reason. Whether we're aware of that reason or not is a different question, but there's
Right.
always a reason. Sometimes it's habitual, ingrained in us from prior years of doing something in a particular way. Sometimes it's emotionally driven or whatever the case is. And so for me, this recognition that even if someone I'm coaching is doing everything against the thing they've told me they wanted,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there is a reason that they're doing that. And we can
Right.
begin to explore what that is. Is it how they've learned to cope throughout their life? Is it bringing them a sense of security or safety or comfort through a stressful time? Is it, something of that nature that is, again, giving them that short-term thing that they need, even though it's not serving them in the long term,
Yeah.
so that we can begin to recognize that and begin to change it.
That's a really, really good one. Where does that come from? Where does that come from? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know now, at least from my own personal experience and also working with clients, um, I understand what's happening. I'm not saying I have arrived, but I understand what happens in the subconscious mind and the reason what's the reason? I can see it now. I didn't used to. But what do you think is one of the core things that we can take a look at for somebody who says, you know what, I try and try, but I keep on. I don't want to do this, but I keep on doing it. And I know not to do it, but I keep doing it. That is like, the $1 million question for so many.
Yeah. So the sort of overarching skill, the theme that everyone can begin to learn how to develop, I highly encourage both for their health, for their career, for their relationships, for their life, is to increase their level of self-awareness, but in a very particular way. And it's a term that I use internally with my clients and with my team called radical introspection. Introspection, of course, is the skill of being able to turn our awareness inwards towards our emotional state. What are we feeling? Be able to take that next step of asking the question, why might I be feeling this way? What's the thing that's triggering this or happening around me? And radical in the sense that we're able to do that when the answers are good and when the answers are not good, where we might be falling short or we might be getting into something that we don't anticipate or that's uncomfortable. That by and large, people that struggle with managing their emotions and making good decisions in stressful events or prioritizing themselves in stressful events tend to shy away from those uncomfortable moments of self-awareness and the
So what are we
responsibility.
calling that? What are we calling that again?
Radical introspection.
Okay. Is that the same as radical self-awareness?
It could be, yeah, they're interchangeable.
Okay.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and there's things we can do to get better at that. I don't know if we want to, I don't want to go diving into that because I do want to talk about just some practical tools that we can use when we're feeling certain ways. But I think it does start from there. It starts right from there, being honestly, radically introspective with
Yeah.
the emotions. What am I feeling right now? And it's this whole thing that I feel like a broken record where I talk about this a lot. Like let us be aware, let us respond rather than react, because that is the human condition. We're going to react because we're humanly going to have emotions that we're going to react to, and that's the primitive mind. When we're aware of it,
Yeah.
but to just respond rather than react. So we can do things like one of the things, of course, that I have learned in the past, I don't know, 3 years that has been a huge help to me in growing in my awareness has been my mindful practice, which is some people call it meditation that I
Yeah.
do regularly, which has been so transformative for me because if somebody wanted to give me a test, they would say, "Oh, you have ADHD." I've heard this all the time. You have, lack of attention, but it's really transformed my ability to focus and keep my attention on things, and also has helped me with my awareness of everything and be more organized. So mindful practice, I cannot say enough about it. I think it's and neuroscience will back this up over and over. I'm sure you would
Yeah.
agree. But that's
Absolutely.
one way. I don't know if there's other ways, but it's not that mindful practice in the morning, 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you decide to do it, an hour. It's not necessarily that is transformative. It's applying it throughout your day that creates that awareness. So that's one big piece of that for me, and what I tend to encourage my clients to do is to have some mindful practice daily, whether that's spending some time with intentions in the morning, whatever that is for them. But yeah, responding rather than just
Absolutely.
reacting. I love that.
And the interesting thing about meditative practices is one of the core benefits of that is it creates time. It creates time to have emotional distance from whatever we might be experiencing so that we can really check in with ourselves, see how we're feeling before we actually respond to it, as you mentioned. So we're not reacting to it. Because it's interesting. I remember reading some research where neuroscientists found that the actual chemical reaction of emotions in our brain
Yeah.
lasts about 90 seconds. That's the chemical reaction of happiness, of joy, of sadness, of fear, of surprise. 90 seconds. So when we are in an emotional state that lasts beyond that, it's not because of whatever the thing was that caused us to feel that way, stressful or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the story that we keep writing about it, the
Is that like
ruminating that we're
where we
doing.
keep our focus?
Right. So exactly that, where we keep our focus, where we keep the spotlight. So if something bad happens that causes me to feel sad, maybe someone says something to me that's rude in passing at the grocery store, a stranger, for example.
Right.
I might have a moment of anger, frustration, sadness,
90 seconds. That's all you
90
get.
seconds. But if I continue to ruminate on it while I'm continuing to do my shopping, I can't believe that person said something to me. Were they right? Do I look ridiculous right now? Is something
Yeah.
happening? It will re-trigger the 90 seconds.
So then you can keep on having the 90 seconds as you just keep on playing that story over and over and making up more stories off of that story.
Exactly.
Wow. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so again, creating that emotional distance is important. That time to let the actual experience of that subside and be able to have the skills and the awareness to write a different story in our
Yeah.
brain, what we describe about the situation we experienced, how we describe it, all play pivotal roles into how we move through life on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
Yeah. On a regular basis, how we move through life. There was a key thing that, you say this 90 seconds, but it can continue on with stories. And one of the things in my own personal experience of my, I don't know, personal development and my mindset and the way that I've changed things, it did something I learned through my mindful practice was this idea. There was two concepts, and one of them was that when your thoughts come up, they're like clouds. So you can let them just pass. You don't have to react.
Right.
You don't have to respond. You don't have to do anything with them. But recognizing that they are outside, like they're not real. They're only thoughts. They're like a cloud. They can pass. And that concept stuck with me because to me, that's so much more powerful because knowing that that's just a thought, it's only
Mhm.
something that my mind came up with. That doesn't mean it's necessarily real. That
Yeah.
thought could be something I'm thinking about somebody or something I'm thinking they're thinking about me, right?
Right.
It is simply a thought. But we have a tendency to believe our thoughts as reality and truth.
Right.
But when we actually stop and recognize this was only a thought, then we can decide about those feelings, right? Because isn't that where those emotions are coming from?
Absolutely.
These
Absolutely.
thoughts.
And part of what you're explaining is in psychology what we call the objectivity bias, which is the idea that how we experience the world we believe is reality instead of our subjective experience of it. So here's a good example that I like to use to really have people experience how non-objective our experience is when we're going through the world is if you imagine, I know it's probably been a while, the last time you got critical feedback from a boss, and listeners can do this while they're listening along. The last time you got a piece of critical feedback from a boss, I want you to think about how that felt emotionally. But I want you to think of it as coming from a boss that you hated, that you didn't like. Probably makes you feel a little angry. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, you want to justify yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So critical feedback from a boss you hate. What does that emotion feel like? And then I want you to think about piece of critical feedback from a boss from one that you respected and admired. How did that feel?
Yeah,
Probably different.
very.
Same objective experience. You got a piece of critical feedback from a person of authority. But in one case, it's someone you respected, and in the other, it's someone you didn't. Different experience.
Yeah.
That story of how you liked them or not changed what you went through
Yeah.
emotionally. And so that is true of every experience we have in our life. The story that we're writing about it, do we like them? Do we not? Is this a good experience, a bad experience?
Yeah.
Impacts how we feel afterwards.
This is deep. This is some deep stuff. I'm thinking some people don't even think about this stuff, This is where
Absolutely.
like most people, like let's just be honest, most people don't think about any of this. They're living on autopilot, completely unaware of how they are allowing the entire world to control them, control their behaviors, control their
Absolutely.
emotions, control their lives.
And the ability to develop the skill to have this awareness and to be able to change these stories is one of the most powerful skills you can develop for a
And it's
better
a
life.
skill. This is the hope right
Skill.
here. This is the hope that I want our listeners to have, that this is not something that's beyond your grasp. It's something you can practice just like any skill and get better at.
Yeah.
And I am going to say, work on mindful practice. Get some meditation in your life.
But those practices are so helpful because you
Yeah.
begin to see those clouds passing and you begin to recognize that they're there instead of just being like, why is it gray all the time? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You begin to label some of these things. But it's interesting too, because there's also a lot of part of the reason it can be so hard to learn this and overcome and begin to rewrite the stories is there are so many psychology and mindset traps that we can fall into.
Like what? What do you mean?
So I'll give you a good example, and it's going to come with a story. As you and I talked about in previous conversations, I started a running group here in New Jersey. I
Mm-hmm.
live along the beach. It's an evening running group once a week along the beach. And so I just hosted it yesterday. And it was a great experience. Because we had the biggest group we've had yet, I wanted to make sure I got a lot of content, right? Got to do it for the social media. So I had us all run extra sprints along the boardwalk
Okay.
afterwards. And in the process of the very last one, I blew out my hamstring. It actually is still
Oh
bothering me now.
no. Oh
Hobbling
no.
around. If I was walking, I'd be hobbling around.
Oh,
Fortunately, it's just a strain and nothing more serious. But I had the whole pop. It was the, catching my step, trying not to fall over, etc. And naturally, I'm upset with myself. I'm not able to do, you mentioned in the beginning of this, I'm a dancer. I won't be able to do that.
I know
Even
that's
though
the
I had
first thing you
plans this
thought.
weekend to do that. I'm going to have to alter my training schedule and what I'm doing because I can't really use my leg right now. And what's so easy for me to do right now and what I fell into initially was beating myself up because the only reason I injured it was the very last sprint, that the only reason we did it was so I could
Oh,
get video content. The run was over. Everyone was done. We had done 2 sprints before this for content, and I
yeah.
decided to do one more just to get extra. And had I not, I'd be totally fine today. And the trap that I fell into is something called the hindsight bias, which is one of these psychological traps, which hindsight, we all know, is 2020. After the fact, it's so easy for me to be like, I didn't need to do that last sprint for
Yeah.
video content. The thing was
Right.
over. I could have just
Right.
left and been fine.
Yeah.
And that would send me into a spiral of negative emotions of I'm dumb. I'm, oversight. I could have made better decisions. Why did I do this to myself? Right? Which would create that 90-second cycle of negative emotions, of spiraling, of stress. And so recognize and know that that's exactly what that is the hindsight bias, which is, of course, that everything is clearer in the past. We can create better explanations for things, good or bad, things we should have done or should not have done in the past when we have, all of the data there. But the reality is there's no way I could have known that I was going to hurt myself on this. We had already done 2 sprints. We did the whole
Yeah.
run. I was totally
Yeah.
fine. I'm an extremely active individual. I run all the time. This isn't just like out of the blue. There was no reason for me to have known that
Yeah.
this was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from that lens, there's no reason for me to beat myself up over it.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because it's just one of those things that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense.
And so being able to recognize that trap, that hindsight bias,
Yeah.
allowed me to change the story. It's no longer beating myself up for doing something silly for some video content. And now it's just the recognition that it was an accident and these things are going to happen.
These happen.
And
Yeah.
especially too, and you'll appreciate this for someone who is so heavily active. I tell this to my clients. When you're living in an active lifestyle, really, even if you're living an inactive lifestyle, it's not a question of, are you going to get injured? It's when and how bad.
When. Yeah. It's always the thing. Yep.
Right.
I say
And
the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm fortunate too that I didn't tear my hamstring muscle because that's what
Yeah.
I initially thought. It's just a
Right.
bad strain. I'm able to walk. I'm able to put weight on it. It's going to get better in a few
Exactly.
days or a few weeks, whatever the case is, and I'll be back to normal. And so I can be thankful for that it's a minor injury because of all of the activities I've done to prepare my body to bounce back from injuries better.
Yeah.
And so it's not nearly as bad as it could have been. And that script, that story, that lens is a much different experience.
Yes.
Damn it, Alex, what are you doing for video content? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
No, for real. That's so powerful. I think about that for clients that are working on their fitness and their health and their fat loss and they've got goals. And for whatever reason that weekend they blew it in their minds and they beat themselves up and those kind of things. Looking at that, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. We got to, keep on shooting on ourselves. And,
Yeah.
I even sometimes think whenever we do our check-ins, like, what would you have done differently? I don't really like that question because you wouldn't have done it differently because it's what you knew at the time, I think, even if it wasn't conscious.
Yeah.
So it's more like, what can you learn from it going forward? I feel that way about my bike crash. I mean, I'm still, you see, that's chip bump. Never going to change. I separated that shoulder in that
Wow.
accident in
Yeah.
March. Thankfully, like you, like I don't need surgery. I'm living with this injury, but I don't beat myself up over it. Like, oh, I should have done this and
Right.
that. Some people do, like, oh, you got to make sure this and that. And it's like, but it's done. And now I know, no reason to keep on with that story and ruminating about the story and making more stories about it to cause us to feel these emotions that are not helpful. They're just not serving us.
Absolutely. And you raise a good point too, which I think is important, because I think one of the reasons that we ruminate on these stories is there's not really a good conclusion. It's kind of similar to, I think of, when a song gets stuck in your head. You'll appreciate this. When a song gets stuck in your head and you can't get it out, one of the ways to get it out of your head is to sing the whole song, start to finish.
Yeah, go listen to the whole song, sing it.
Because the reason it gets trapped in our brains, or one of the reasons, is because our brains like to finish things, and we tend to just have like
Oh
the
yeah,
chorus or a
that's
single
a
part of
good
the verse
point. That's
that
a
just
good
repeats
point.
over and over again because it's not finished. And so when we ruminate, there's a bad experience that we've had that resulted in some unintended outcome, but there's not a good conclusion in our brains. There's not a happy
Mm,
ending for that. And so you raise this, which is a really important point, which is figuring out
yeah,
what the lesson is. What is the
yeah,
lesson that we can take to avoid it again in the future or do better the next time? Right. So in the case of the example I use with the running, it's funny. I was just talking about this with a trainer buddy of mine. I realized that's the first time I've gone out 100% on a sprint in like a decade.
oh my.
Red flag, right? But I also realized this comically. I'm not fast enough that my 80% and my 100% look any different on camera. So I didn't
Oh my
actually
god,
need, for video content, which was the whole purpose, I didn't need to run 100%. I could have
you're
gone
so
80
funny.
and I would have
You
got the
could have.
same outcome, and I probably wouldn't have been injured from it,
There's
right?
also this editing tool called Speed.
Listen, I'm trying to at least be honest with the viewers. I don't want to.
I
So
know that makes me sound bad, but no, I'm just saying that's
So
funny.
now I know in the future, if I'm trying to get video content for something or do something that looks cool, I don't actually have to go 100%. I can pull back, still get what I want, and keep myself a little safe. There's no reason for me to go.
Right. Like the point's still there. Right.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's similar ways that we can do that. Finding the learning lesson that we have, what can we do differently, is an important part of closing the loop so that we can. A good example of this, I was just talking to a client the other day who had planned to do an afternoon workout over the weekend. And what happened is, as the morning went on, something happened where a family member ended up in the hospital. Nothing serious, all good. But she ended up having to spend the rest of her day in the hospital. Workout shot. And she
Yeah.
felt terrible about it because she felt
Mm.
like she should have done it earlier. She should have, like, she didn't really, it started as a calm morning, coffee, hanging out, relaxing. It's a Saturday. Had ample time for the workout later and suddenly didn't.
Yeah.
Beating herself up for missing it. But the
Aw.
reality is, to your point, she couldn't have known. She couldn't have known
Yeah.
that that
You
was going to
couldn't have
happen.
known that was going to happen. Yeah.
And one potential lesson that she can pull to end the rumination, to end the story, is when possible, life happens. Things, we
Yeah.
never know when something's going to
We
happen. So
never
if we
know.
have an
Right.
opportunity to get to the gym where we're free, where we have the
Yeah.
ability to, sooner
Right.
rather than later is probably better, because then we know it's done.
Right. Just
Out
get
of the
it
way.
done. Yeah.
Right?
Very good point. Yep. Especially for
And
our busy women, because I was there too, where I would be like, I'm going to go to the gym after work. And time again, I mean, I'd go, but there were many times I kept getting interrupted with family situations or
right.
something that I forgot about. So, yeah. So then that's when I shifted. When I was working full time, I had the kids and all that. That's when I would get up extra early and go to the gym and get it knocked out in the first thing, because then nobody can take it away.
Right. Right.
But I learned just like you said.
Absolutely. And that's the lesson there. And so and granted, it doesn't mean you have to do early morning workouts if that's not your thing. If you, the only time you can do it is in the evenings, that's perfectly fine. But when you have the opportunity to go earlier, if you have that pocket in your schedule, and if this is something important to you, it could be working out, it could be something else, do it earlier. Because you
Yeah.
never know what's going to pop up that's
Yeah.
going to impede that. But just being able to draw that lesson for her, calm the rumination, calm the emotions, calm the stories, allowed her to then proceed forward
Yeah.
without
Wow,
continuing to beat
that's
herself
true.
up.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
But just noticing that. Getting back to the emotions And let's talk about that. Like, I don't know, like, what from what angle, but sometimes, we can look at things and go, well, somebody will say, well, it is important to me. It's important to me. I was talking about, I had done a video not too long ago. I was talking about, it is important. You say it's important to you that you want to improve your health, you want to improve your fitness. But your lifestyle and your behaviors and all of your actions in your day to day do not reflect that it's important to you. And there are a lot of things that are important. And, but if, we don't make it a priority, then it's not going to happen. And I think a lot of people just miss that point. They will say, yes, it's important to me. How can you say it's not important? One of the things that, this is going to get personal, but that's okay because my listeners know I'm real personal. But sometimes if I didn't do something, this one will irk me, and it probably would irk just about anybody. If I didn't do something and somebody says, well, it wasn't important to you. I don't know if that's true or not. It's
Yeah.
like, is that true? Like, is that really true? It's important, but probably not as important as other things, right? If everything's important, nothing's important.
Well, so there's a slight fallacy involved in that, which is if we are not acting on the things that we verbally express that we want, then it must mean it's not important. And that assumes that we are not influenced by things other than our decisions. Here's what I mean by that. One of the challenges is habitually, most of the time, you mentioned most people go through life on autopilot, being kind of controlled by their emotions. That's true from an emotional standpoint, but it's also just true from a behavioral standpoint. We are on autopilot most of the time. It's the only way our
Oh,
brains can
true. That's
handle all
true.
the
That's
stimulus
true.
that we have,
Yeah. That's a good
right?
point. Yeah.
An example of this is you probably don't think about every turn you take on your way to
Right.
work, on your way to
Exactly.
the grocery store, or things that you do repeatedly. We don't even think about how we drive a car most of the time. It's just automatic. And the challenge is for anyone who is actively looking to change their lifestyle is combating often decades
Yes.
of ingrained behavior that is now happening on a subconscious level
Yeah.
on autopilot. So we
Yeah.
have to directly combat our autopilot.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say that somebody is just, it's not important to them for not doing it because it ignores the
Right.
fact that their wiring is driving them in a different direction.
This. And this is exactly the reason why I don't have a problem saying it's not your fault.
Right.
It is your responsibility, but it's not your fault that your brain has been programmed this way. But we do have a responsibility to rewire that, and we can if we choose to.
100%. And that's a great way to put it. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah, it is your responsibility. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I don't know where to go from here, except that you did discuss before we were talking about some tools, things that we can do in our day to day to take back our control when it comes to our emotions that we are allowing to control our behaviors and our actions, but we want to do something differently. Um, how can we do that?
Absolutely. And so this tool that I want to share is a way to begin developing that awareness about our emotional states and how we're being driven by them. But also it's the starting process for beginning to change the stories that we are writing.
Should we get like a notebook and pen to take notes?
If you have one next to you, I
Okay,
would.
we better do that because this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Y'all, get your notebooks and pens.
So it's actually a strategy from CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a
Yeah.
form of therapy entirely derived around changing the way that we think about ourselves. So relevant, super relevant. And it's called Socratic questioning. The first term of that might be familiar. Socrates was the Greek philosopher that was known for asking questions about everything. He was probably annoying as shit, to be honest
I
with you.
think I'm related to him. I'm related to him, I swear.
And so the Greek philosopher asked why about everything, and that is very similar into what this tool is. It's a series of 5 questions. This is where the notepad comes in handy. 5 questions that we can ask of ourselves when we're having an emotional experience, when we're ruminating on something negative, whatever the case is, when we want to pull ourselves out of that
Yeah.
fresh perspective, we can ask ourselves these 5 questions. Great journaling prompts too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The first question is, what is the evidence that the thought I'm having is true? What is the evidence? The benefit of this question is it starts to call into question the subjectivity of our experience. We talked about that earlier with the boss example. We think everything is objective that we go through, when in reality it's not. It's our perception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this question, what is the evidence? The factual evidence that exists for what I'm thinking to be true is starting to bring that to light. Is there objective evidence, or is this just something that I'm manifesting in my brain? We begin to start that process. So that's the first question. The second question is,
Well, should we put an example here?
let's do it. Let's do
Like,
it. What's
let's
the evidence that
let's
this
color
thought is
it.
true?
Let's add some color to this.
Let's
What
add
would
some.
be what's a common belief or thought that someone might have that's working on their health and their fitness? This this process is I'm not going fast enough. It's not happening fast enough. That's a pretty common one. Not getting the results fast enough.
It could easily be I'm not seeing tangible results on the scale, for example.
I'm not seeing results.
I'm not seeing the results that I wanted. That's a very common one. I get that all the time. I'm sure you get that all the time. Someone's
Yeah.
doing the work, but
Yeah,
not
but
seeing
they're not
the
seeing the
measurable
results.
results that they want.
Yeah.
So what is the evidence that we're not seeing any results? Okay, there might be, maybe the scale's not changing. That could be one, an obvious one, right? Other evidence that is true. What could be there? Maybe they're still feeling lethargic, perhaps. Maybe not. Maybe in the search for that evidence, they realize a lot of other things. Maybe they realize they do have more energy. Maybe they realize they're sleeping better.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they
Maybe
realize they're getting stronger.
they're feeling stronger.
They're
They have
feeling
more
better.
stamina, more energy. Maybe their mood
Maybe,
is better.
and maybe their clothes are feeling looser.
100%. 100%. So there might be a point of evidence, the scale not changing. But when we dig further and we begin to ask that question, okay, what is the evidence that I'm not seeing results? And we have now suddenly a laundry list of things that are better. It starts to feel a little different.
Right. That's a big one.
Maybe we're doing better than we thought. Right? So what is the evidence that the thought we have is true is the first question we can ask. The second question, if we are wrong about the situation, what is another way to look at it? If we're wrong about our thought and the story that we're writing, what is an alternative way that we can look at the situation? This question is important because now it forces us to start thinking about alternative stories. We just kind of alluded to this with our example from the first one. Someone who's not feeling like they're seeing progress.
Yeah.
They evaluate the evidence, scale's not changing, but they have all of these other positive benefits. Okay, if I'm wrong and I am actually seeing results, what's another way to look at this? Well, I'm getting stronger. I'm making better food choices that make me feel more energetic and less lethargic. I'm sleeping better.
Yeah.
I'm having better interactions with my family.
And I'm feeling more confident in myself because I'm making healthy choices.
Absolutely. So we get to support our answers from the first question to now figure out what's an alternative story that we can think about, that we can use to explain what's happening to us. If we're wrong, what's an alternative way to look at the situation is the second question. The third question, we're going to look at the opposite now. If you're right, if what you're thinking is absolutely true, what can you do about it?
Okay, this is good.
This is important because now we're talking about the difference between what we call external versus internal control.
Right.
A lot of people suffer because they try to exert control over external factors that they actually have no control over.
Right.
And so when we ask this question, if we're right, if we're not, in our example, if we're not seeing progress, genuinely, what can we do about it? okay, are we not making the nutrition changes that we know that we've talked about with our coach, or that we know we need to be making? Are we not tracking
What
diligently?
can we do
Are we,
about it?
what can we do about it? What can we begin to change? Do we need to start eating out a little less? Do we need to get to bed a little bit earlier so there's less late night snacking? Do we need to stop skipping workouts because of XYZ?
Do we need to start packing our meals
Do we
for
need to start meal
work?
prepping and packing our meals for work so we don't give in to the free food in the break room, right? So it pushes us into a solution focused
Yeah.
mindset. If these
I think
problems
that's
are
one of my
real,
favorite. That's one of my favorite questions. But go ahead.
it's a great one. The next
What
one's
can
my
we
personal
do
favorite.
about it? Okay, what
What
is
can
it?
we do about it? It's push us in a solution focused. Our fourth question: if you were giving advice to a friend in the exact same situation,
Oh, that's
what would
good.
you tell them?
That's right.
What would you tell them? This is my favorite because we were talking about this earlier. This question creates that emotional distance. Most of us find we give great advice to our friends, but it's a lot harder to take that advice ourselves.
True. Yeah.
And it's because when we're giving advice to somebody else in it, our emotions aren't involved, or they're significantly lesser.
Yeah.
So we can think rationally, logically, what's the best thing to do here, objectively. When it's us, the emotions are mixed in.
That's true.
How we feel about the situation, how we feel about ourselves,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, we
Yeah.
expect to happen in the future, it
Right.
clouds the decisions that we make
Yeah.
because we can't
That
have both of those parts of our brain activated at the same time.
that's true. And that brings to mind one of the most common things that I see women doing. We talk about beating ourselves up, but they do that a lot. Um,
Mhm.
this internal negative dialogue, self-talk, a
Yeah.
lot. But when you ask them, would you talk like this to somebody that
Yeah.
you loved? That changes everything. They'll be like, well,
Absolutely.
no. Well, then why would you talk to yourself like that?
Yeah. Look at that. You've been using Socratic
It's a
questioning
big one.
all.
This is a big one.
Absolutely. So creating that emotional distance is important. So we think about the situation a little bit more rationally, a little bit more logically. The last question, which you'll appreciate too, is given everything you've evaluated in questions 1 through 4, which is what evidence do you have it's true? If you're wrong, what's another way to look at it? If you're right, what can you do about it? And what advice would you give to a friend? The last question, number 5, what should you do right now? And this question is great because it pushes us into actually taking action.
Yeah.
What
Beautiful.
should
What
we
would you
do?
do right now?
Mhm.
Keep going. Don't give up. Don't quit.
Right. Keep going with the new story. Keep
Take the
going with the
next
new
action.
plan.
Yes. Do the
Shift
next best
your
thing.
exactly. Shift your behavior. Tie up some loose ends. Figure things out. Solve some of these
Hire a
problems.
coach. Join Rock That Fitness for crying out loud.
You should definitely join Rock That Fitness. In fact, you should just stop listening and go join Rock That Fitness. Sign up.
Go sign up for our next challenge. That's awesome. I hope
And
everybody
so,
took notes.
absolutely. And
Right.
so these are so helpful. I use them with clients all the time. It's an
Yeah,
integral part
that's
of our
good.
program to begin reshifting. Because here's the important caveat to this in a good way. This is an exercise we can use at any moment that we feel like we're ruminating or we're slipping or we're spiraling out of control in a negative way to reframe our perspective. Here's where it's most important. The more we do this, we were talking about habits. The more
Right.
we do this, you can permanently shift how you interpret events in your life.
Beautiful.
And I don't like to say having a positive mindset by default is not going to make your life all sunshine and rainbows,
Yeah.
but it will put more sunshine and rainbows in your life.
Aw. That's true. That's true. And so by saying that, I think like it's true to say that you can live a more happy, fulfilled life if you practice these skills because then you will not be all, blown by the wind. You can
Absolutely.
adjust your sails and sail away.
100%. Because life is objectively hard for everyone. Obviously, varying
Right.
degrees in various situations, 100%. But life is objectively hard.
Yeah.
And what differentiates people who are genuinely more happy and more fulfilled and more satisfied is the stories that they tell themselves about
Yes.
those hardships.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can appreciate this so much. And I think that the listeners that feel that way, I think they're going to be validated too, because I can't tell you how many times, people think, well, she's just toxic positivity over there. I'm like, no, this is genuine. And I'm not toxic positivity. And things can be hard and you can still be positive that it's all going to work out, positive that you're going to make the right choices that are going to be the good for you. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of good things.
absolutely.
And you can call me Pollyanna all you want.
I actually have a funny story for you about this. Many years ago, I was attending a bachelor party dinner for a friend of mine. He's the only person I knew here of the maybe 13 or 14 people that were there. And I was seated next to this gentleman, probably in his 50s. And this was the friend I was there for, has a podcast that I've been on a number of times. So a lot of these people that are his friends have heard me on this podcast, even though they've never met me. And he was asking me my story, and I was telling him about my weight loss transformation and about everything I had gone through up to that point. And he looked at me and he was like, the first time I heard you on the podcast, I wanted to punch you in the face. And I was so confused. I was like, why? He was like, because everything you said just felt so positive. It didn't feel real. And he was like, now that I've met you, I understand that you're the real deal, that you mean everything, that it's genuine, that this is how you go through life.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
neat.
was sort of a wild moment for me, because I realized that if even being happy makes people want to punch you in the face,
Not
there's
my
no hope for other
problem.
people. Don't worry about other people. I'm going to go
Not
through
my
this to
business.
make me feel better.
Right.
Exactly. Their interpretations are none of my business.
Not my business. That's
Right.
awesome. Alex, I know we're running out of time now, but you just brought up something like, how could I have forgotten to bring this up in the very beginning? You've had your own personal transformation. Hello?
I
Can you
did.
just tell our listeners real quick? I mean, truly, it's a really great thing. And I know we were having a conversation recently where you were like, yeah, but it was so long ago. But then both of us were like, yeah, but it's still significant.
Yeah,
You've had an amazing transformation. Please share your story real quick.
I did. When I was a senior in high school, I lost just under 100 pounds in the course of about 15 months. Completely changed. I was the overweight kid growing up my whole life. Completely changed sort of the trajectory of my confidence level, my identity, my career path.
Amazing. Nobody would ever guess this about you just seeing you today.
Well, this is part of the reason that you and I talk about, where I sort of talk about the story less, because I am now, like, the entire thesis of my being now is essentially to become the person I would have wanted to trade places with when I was low self-esteem, low confidence, overweight kid. And now that I am so far removed from who that
Yeah.
old version of me was, it almost
Yeah.
feels inauthentic to talk about it, because it feels like talking about a different person. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
feel relevant. But it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's one of those conversations we had that I can relate to. However, that journey that you went through is significant. There's so much to unpack there to help our clients now that are going through that same thing. And like you, I feel like my transformation seems so long ago. I don't really connect as much with that person. It's two
Mhm.
different people completely almost, but I need to tap into that too, because my clients need to know that I truly do relate. And so anyways, man, you're amazing, Alex. I always love talking to you. We can talk for hours and hours. So great. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming and being on the podcast today.
This has been awesome.
Where can our listeners find you? Also, is your book released yet?
No,
You're
that's a
still
ways
working
out.
on that?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, you got a pretty y'all, he's got this really cool book coming out. Anyways, go check him out. Where are you? Instagram, Alex McBrairty
yep.
from A-Team
Instagram
Fitness.
at _18fit_ is probably the best place to find me. If you are curious to learn more about this intersection of psychology and fitness, I do have a newsletter on Substack, 18fit.substack.com. You can also, or per that book you mentioned, it's a book about making friends as an adult, because I moved to New Jersey 2 years ago, started from scratch, only knowing one person who had only met in person 3 times before that. and I had to rebuild my entire social life over the course of the last 2 years. And so I wrote a book about it so that you can also, if you feel like you're missing friendships, do that as well. And so if you go to my Instagram, you'll be able to sign up for the wait list for that book to get passages and whatnot.
Very cool. Very cool. So honored to have you today. Always a pleasure talking with you. And you guys, y'all do need to go and follow Alex because you'll love his content. You'll love the things he's sharing on his page. You'll get to see him do his salsa dancing. But he's got such great insight for helping us change the way that we think so that we can live a more fulfilled and happy life. And isn't that just, I mean, ultimately, that's what we really want in life anyway, is to be happy. So y'all go follow Alex. Alex, thank you so very much for being here. You rock, man.
Thank you for
All
having me.
right. Have a great day. Rock on.